Yeah, I got it. Welcome everyone to Van Tharp Institute's Free Monday webinar. Today we are joined by Ken Long to talk about his upcoming workshop. Before we start, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping rules. If you have any questions, feel free to add them to chat and we will go over those once we get to the Q&A section. If you are asked to raise your hand at any point in time, hover your mouse at the bottom of your Zoom screen, click on participants, and it's the blue hand next to yes and no. Enjoy the webinar, everyone.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jackie. Good to see everybody here today and some friendly faces and some old friends. I noticed that Luke Crockford is here from down under. And since I'm going to be shamelessly praising his due diligence, I know he will have the courtesy to agree with everything that I'm about to say, true or not. Send some prayers to the folks suffering through the reminder of just how small and fragile we are in this planet, the tornado victims. Well, today I wanted to talk about due diligence and the secret sauce that we have discovered again, like we always do every time we work hard and then we think about what made things work. We always come back to the basics, the fundamentals, the intention, and doing the hard work. The coal will not shovel itself. And this last weekend we had our annual research weekend. We had about 15 folks come in and reveal what they've been working on for the past 18 months through the era of COVID. And it was a good chance to connect back with some people that COVID made it harder to connect with in some ways. And it was just a reminder of what happens when you put together professional standards, due diligence, a community of practice that you can trust and rely on to give you good feedback and support emotionally when you need it. And I had very high expectations for it, and the results completely blew me away. And when Van asked me if I wanted to talk to the people, I said, well, sure, but if I can talk about these other folks, then that would be great. So he said, sure, go ahead. So due diligence and the secret sauce. These are the things that I'm going to talk about today. Due diligence and professional standards are the opposite side of the coin that features enthusiasm, vision, purpose, and all the positive things that we want to achieve in the world. The obverse side of that coin, and you need both sides to have the coin, is this idea of due diligence and professional standards, that the coal will not shovel itself, and that there are many a slip between the cup and the lip and miles to go before we sleep. So I want to talk about those sides of the work. And I'm going to reinforce this notion that the secret sauce is not secret. It's only rare. And that secret sauce is an acquired taste. And it's also very addictive once you taste it. I'm going to talk about 4 living examples of excellence that were on full display this past weekend. And it wasn't even my judgment or anybody else's judgment that, oh, we evaluated the work and found it good. No, the work spoke for itself so powerfully that it was just true, that it was there on display for all to see. And most importantly, it was in the internal sense and judgment in the identity level of these four guys who didn't need me to tell them that they'd done some good hard work. It was they had internalized the lessons to the point where they didn't need me to say that at all. So my hat tip to Ken Hum, Luke Crockford, Phil Wu, and Griff Cooper, who did all the hard work and are kind enough to share their insights with us today. So we want to have some conversations that matter today about their work. I'm going to highlight that their work reinforces this formula: planning, preparing, executing, and assessing. And my contention that having the plan is the least important part of that journey, that preparation is everything. The plan will get you into the ballpark. It'll get you into the same zip code as success. But if you really want to seize the moment, then the rewards go to those who are prepared to win. And that's why that's capitalized. If you've done a good job in preparation, it encompasses the plan. And it sets the condition whereby your execution can proceed under control, within limits, with protection, and good preparation frees you to execute completely according to the way that you've trained. Good preparation removes the need to have the little questioning voice in your head. I wonder if this is going to be okay. I wonder if this one's the right way to do it. I wonder if I've thought about all those other things. If you prepared right, you've already answered those questions. You can execute the way you've trained. And then finally, the assessment in that formula, which says that all of our choices, all of our actions have consequences. Those consequences are results. Those can be studied. We can put analysis and math and statistics on it, and we can determine what is and what isn't on the basis of evidence. And then that will feed back into improvements in how we plan, prepare, and execute. You could even put the assessment on your assessment and get all meta and figure out how to select better things to study, different angles to examine your work. And as a lazy person myself, this is where I would say that, the best thing you can do is to be in a mastermind or community of practice that has a variety of perspectives that allows you to get smart on other people's effort. That if you've got a community of practice that is built on solid foundations of safety and trust and truth, that you can incorporate multiple points of view at very low cost to yourself. All you got to do is be willing to take the feedback and use it. And if you can solve the ego problem, which trading certainly will do for us anyway, then having a collaborative group to give you insights and alternative perspectives is an extraordinary way to get the most out of assessment and to prepare you for the unexpected. So that formula you will see reflected throughout the work that we look at today. The bottom formula is just something that has emerged personally for me over the last about 18 months of COVID, as I think about trying to make a difference in the world. This formula seems to be common to all the areas in which I work, as a soccer coach, as a martial artist, as a teacher, as a student, as a trader. All of those dimensions of my life, this formula seems to work. And that is, on the left-hand side, purpose times action times artifact is how you create innovation that lasts. Now, those are multiplied. So if any one of them is zero, that whole side of the equation solves to zero. So you actually have to have all three of those. Like if you're acting without a purpose, you're just vectorless energy. You are your heat, and that's going to get dissipated. So be vectored energy, be moving towards something, have a purpose towards which your effort is directed. And then you have to take action. If you have purpose but no action, then you're a bulletin board, or you're a slogan, or a bumper sticker. You're not walking the talk. You have to act in the world to change the world. The world is resistant to change, and action is required. Work must be performed. And then finally, an artifact. There are a lot of things that conspire in the world to defeat your initiatives, to undermine your momentum, to bleed off your enthusiasm, all of the emotional goodies that come with initial success. They're listed on the right-hand side over there. So unless your work is producing an artifact, and by an artifact, I mean a tool, a symbol, an icon, a song, a phrase, something that you create, that you have given meaning to, that endures, and that can be communicated to others. That gives you the possibility of leveraging your action with that tool, and to allow you to achieve scale in the world. And so we're going to see some artifacts today that are already making a difference in the world through the work of those four guys. So you need all three of those things: purpose times action times artifact, and that represents the powerful forces for good and for transformation in the world. And I argue that that's greater than the forces that try to undercut that. The right-hand side, these are additive because they're lazy and they don't work together. They're just forces in the world. Inertia, bodies at rest tend to stay at rest. Bodies in motion tend to stay in motion. Most of the world just stays at rest the way it is. So you have to overcome that. You have to get it started. Something has to happen to overcome inertia and then to maintain it. Culture is that powerful force of how things are just done around here when everybody gets too tired to change things and they just accept what's going on. And it reflects their accustomed preferences, their habits, their default position. And I'd argue that the culture is dumb. If you look at TV or social media, I'm wondering if anybody out there would like to take the other side of that argument. Does anybody want to argue that culture is smart? I'll take that one on. I suppose it could be smart in some places, but boy, what a load to overcome. And then finally, the status quo. The status quo has such power because it makes people happy. And you would say, well, I'm not happy with the status quo. I mean, who is? Well, if you think about it, everybody has dreams. They wish things were much, much better. They have some ideal state, but the world teaches you can't have that. So you end up settling for what you do have, that small sandwich instead of a full meal. And it makes you happy enough that you don't even want to risk that, because the thought of having nothing terrifies us or makes us uncomfortable. So those three things together, inertia, culture, and status quo, I think of them as fat, dumb, and happy. Inertia is fat. That's why the body stays at rest. Culture is dumb, and the status quo makes us happy or just happy enough. So to overcome the forces of fat, dumb, and happy, what you need is leadership with skin in the game. And skin in the game simply means that the person who's encouraging you, or who is leading you, or who is the initiator, that leader, has a personal and professional stake in the outcome of this venture. And if it doesn't go right, they pay a price, personally and professionally. So if you're in a position where a leader is encouraging you to do something with words, or maybe even an artifact, but if they don't have skin in the game that is clear and uncontrovertible, then they're really on the side of fat, dumb, and happy. And so my default position is that, sir, your leadership is fat, dumb, and happy. Change my mind. Show me that you have skin in the game. And then I'm all in. But if you're asking me to take a risk that you won't personally take, not interested in your message any further. I know which side of the formula you're on. So what we're going to see in the work that these guys demonstrate today is that they've got skin in the game. They had a very clear purpose. They took the action every day to do the work, and they produced artifacts that will help them endure and overcome inertia, culture, and status quo. And they don't need me to convince them of that. Their own work convinced them of that. Now, it was sort of validated by the people that worked with them and observed them in practice. But when you've done something right, you know it. And that's, I'm really pleased to be able to share their stories with you. The first one I want to show is with Luke, because he's in this room, and I'm hoping we can embarrass him in public by showing his work. So this is a short extract of his work. His presentation was about 20 or 30 minutes that last weekend. Plus we had about another 30 or 40 minutes of roundtable discussion, looking at next steps and, you know, all the things that are now going to happen after he's done all of this work. That's part of the ongoing assessment process, that we love the work you've done, amazing piece of work. Okay, let's go. Next step. So he had approximately 5 minutes to enjoy, you know, the warm glow of his peers and friends, and then we're putting him right back to work. So this reflects some of the highlights of the work that he's done every night online in public in our community of practice for about 18 months, all through the COVID era. I'm not going to cover all of those things, but his presentation was essentially a purple belt test. And those of you in the martial arts will probably know what that is. So at the purple belt, that's the middle belt in jiu-jitsu that says, I've mastered the basic skills and I'm still here. You know, I've got calluses on my hands. I've been thrown by the best. I've tumbled and learned to fall and gotten back up, and I'm going to persist on the next leg of the journey. Purple belt is a sign of commitment. And so the work that he demonstrated us shows that he's mastered all of the basics to the required level, and that he has a clear plan going forward, and that he's in it for the long haul. He made a deliberate choice to focus on one target, one tradable entity that works as both an intraday trader and for swing trading. A streamlined set of indicators. He worked on the tips, tricks, techniques, and discipline, examined carefully his beliefs that he started with, the ones that he developed through the effort, and the ones that he concludes his work with as a way to guide the next steps. He showed us what he had learned halfway through and how that shaped the second half of his 18 months, where his performance just continued to get better. And he did something very special with the bar by bar reviews in his learning journal that just tells me you don't want to be on the other side of the trade from him, and that you want him on your team. So what this guy thought was that, now you tell me if you think this is a good idea. He learned the rules as best he could, and then immediately started trading them in public and receiving feedback from the other members of the community. And he asked me to mark up his charts and go through bar by bar analysis of all his sins of commission and omission to learn from that. I don't know if you know how hard that is to do in public, but that's like public speaking and not even being prepared. But standing there in front under the spotlight, ready to take the hits. And he learned how to become resilient as a consequence of that. And what he did was provide a chart with his own markups that showed how he planned, how he prepared, how he executed. And then he went a step further to commit to the lessons that he learned upon inspecting his own work. So he was acting as his own coach. And then he published that in our nightly chat room and then asked for feedback. And so we complied. We went through his trades bar by bar. We examined his setups. We examined his markups. We took a look at the lessons that he thought that he had learned from the evidence that he had generated. And then we gave him feedback about all of those things. So he demonstrated plan, prepare, execute, and assess. And then we assessed all of those. And as a result of that, he learned to develop a coach's eye on his own performance, meaning that he had learned to separate the assessment of his performance from the performance itself. He was able to look at game film of his own work. What made that special was that he recorded all those sessions and made the charts, his markups, our feedback, and our video replay of that all part of his learning journal. So he wasn't just looking at replays of his trades. He was looking at the replays of the feedback that he got multiple times in order to find the little hidden gems that are there. You know, one of the things that we have seen with everybody that does this kind of work is that you see what you see on your charts and you make your decisions as you understand them. And when you open that up for others to view and they see things that you didn't see, that opens a whole new world, a different way to look at the indicator, to maybe connect the inputs from two different indicators and blend them together. And so you start getting a rich three-dimensional, sometimes four-dimensional view of what started off as a two-dimensional process, right? So by making his coaching notes available in public, he got better and he learned to develop a thick skin. By listening to the feedback and doing something about it, he developed a thick skin and new ways of looking. By recording that and going back to the game film, he became professional in his approach. That to me is the most remarkable and inspirational part of his work, other than the results, I should say. He took a look at his inner psychology. He looked at market conditions. He looked at the way the systems were performing. He looked at all three of those: system, self, and market. And he started examining the utility of the beliefs that he started with and changed those as a result of feedback from us, but more importantly, feedback from the market itself. And then he offered his lessons learned and had some questions to ask of us and invited us to ask questions of him, and then had some thoughts about next steps. So the content of his briefing, I think I sent available on request to Jack. We're happy to share those with you. I think it was the video to Jack. It was almost like a travel documentary, 18 months in the desert or 18 months climbing a mountain or draining a swamp, whatever. It's hard work. And I think that's that thing will speak for itself. So I just want to highlight a few things. What I thought was really instructive was deciding to work with one target. He happened to use Cliff Natural Resources, a mid-cap steel company and steel infrastructure maker in the US. Its symbol is CLF. It's a symbol that we've come across, for the last 15 years as a particularly well-suited target for trading, whether you're doing intraday or swing trading. It has a very high signal to noise ratio, meaning that it's very directional, that once you can tap into the direction and get aligned with that, it will pull you along in that direction. That there's a lot of folks that apparently just trade Cliff. And so a lot of market noise gets screened out, like it does its own thing. And both intraday and swing trading, when you get something that trades with strong trendability in both of those time frames, that really becomes an efficient vehicle for trading, because you only have to become expert in one thing and it works in multiple times, and the moves tend to be fractal. There's a number of other targets that we have like that in a variety of sectors, but Cliff has been one of our staples for more than 15 years. So he chose that one to work on and kind of demonstrated that what I just said was true. He concentrated carefully on intentional practice, trying to take all of the signals for entry, management, and exit to work on the entire chain of trading that we practice. There was a span of control of one, meaning there's just one thing to manage, so you're not flitting back and forth. That builds focus, attention, and skill, teaches patience, knowing what to do when there's nothing to do. Then you should be studying and preparing. And what he found was that as his skill began to develop, that by paying attention to practical results and real money, he was getting paid to learn. That by controlling the left-hand side of the histogram, by managing the risk, by getting his position to no lose plus dinner for two, which we mean to say that it's a point in the trade where if it now goes against me and hits my stop, the worst thing that happens is that I make $100 and I can take two people to dinner in Kansas on $100 with a nice tip. So if that's the worst thing that can happen to you in the trade, there is a psychological shift that happens for most people when they go from a condition where they have some of their seed capital at risk to the point where the worst thing that happens is that I'm going to make money. There's a psychological shift that goes on, and it allows you to treat the rest of the trade as a science project to see with evidence how this set of rules that I've adopted matches up to price action. And I wonder how much money we're going to make on this trade. It's a science project. That's all. So you're able to non-identify or to de-identify your ego and your opinions from the conduct of a science project. And when you move to no lose plus dinner for two, we've discovered across a lot of people and a lot of styles that there is a noticeable, persistent psychological shift, which builds strength and confidence for the management of the rest of the trade. Turns out that all of the other trades decisions, all of the remaining decisions about managing the trade all take the same form. So the things that you think about, when should I move to no lose plus dinner for two, turns out to be exactly the same criteria and sensibility and market context that you use to manage all the trades. And if you're into a good trade, there might be 10 decisions that you make. The first one was to get in, and the last one was to get out. And the 8 decisions you made in the middle are all of the same decision. How do I adjust my position, my stop to the current reality of the market? So can I be mindful about what's going on? Not what I think might happen, but can I just adjust the trade frame so that I'm accepting a measured amount of risk that is appropriate to what I think is going on in the market? And so you keep making that decision every time the market changes or periodically. And now suddenly, if you get very good at that decision, suddenly 8 out of the 10 decisions you have to make in the trade, you have excellence in. And here's the secret. The last decision, when to get out, you didn't even decide to get out. The market's price action took you out because it hit the stop that you had already framed. So you didn't even have to think about it. The market decides to get out, not you. You put your mark. If it hits the mark, you're out. Otherwise, you're in and adjusting. If you roll that back to the very first decision to get in or to get out, that now is the least important decision. It's not trivial. It's not irrelevant. I mean, that's how you can't start managing the trade until you're in the trade. Unless you look at the entry as just the same decision you made when you're managing the trade, that the risk and reward and the time is there. In fact, you have the four things that are needed to make a trade: time, will, pattern, and money. And if those four things are there, you have a trade. And then you manage the trade through its life cycle with a standard, consistent set of rules, in the same way that a carpenter prepares the wood, shapes the wood in the same way with the same set of tools in a professional manner to make it fit for the project that he's on. Then he assesses his work. So when you have a span of control of one, as Luke did with CLF, it allows you to become familiar with that raw material. You start developing tacit skill at an unconscious level or a semi-conscious level that just informs your decision-making process, even if you're not consciously aware of it. And one of the things that we learn to do through our assessment is to look for that kind of evidence of skill. Why did I make this decision? What triggered me? What do I think about that? How do I consciously adjust my frame? We learn to notice every one of those little intuitions or adjustments that surprise us, and then that becomes an object of study for us to assess. Did that add value? Did it not add value? What do I think about that? Can I make that an explicit part of my rules? So what we're talking about here is craft knowledge, not just knowledge of the head, which is the rational conceptual understanding, and not just the knowledge of the heart, which is connected to your purpose and enthusiasm. It's not just the knowledge of your gut, which is your fear-based sense of survival that you've inherited from 10 million successful years of evolution. Let me say something about the knowledge of your gut, the knowledge of fear. If you're discounting that, well, you are missing one of the most important sources of information about the world that you could ever have. What's the right action to take on knowledge of the gut? Well, we want to accommodate it in a professional way, but we're not going to discount it. We're not going to try to control it. It's uncontrollable. We're going to learn to live with it and manage it and use it for what it does. And that is keeping us humble and aware of danger in the world, and allow us to refine our management skills. So this knowledge of the hands, after you've done knowledge of head, heart, and cut, you move to the knowledge of the hands. That's the knowledge of how to do things with that pattern in that moment, with this raw material at this time, based on who you are and what you do. That's the knowledge of the hands, how to do things in the world. And we see trading as a craft, which is teachable, trainable, learnable, adjustable, and respects expertise. The fifth way of knowing, the knowledge of the feet, is how you learn to do that every day. Learn how did you learn how to go to work and to put up with the monkeys you work with, or people smarter than you, and the things that higher headquarters is telling you, and dealing with customers and the world and change and all that stuff. How do you do that day after day? Keep going and learning. Well, that's more than just the knowledge of your hands. It's knowing how to do that every day, and with endurance and resilience and the joy of quiet competence. So all five of those ways of knowing are things that Luke and Ken and Phil and Griff all experienced while going through their craft knowledge with their work. So +1 to those guys for adopting a professional mindset, respecting the game, and learning how to settle in and pull. I thought that was really quite impressive. And then getting paid to learn simply means that as you go and you start making money on these ideas, they don't have to be perfect, and they're never perfect. And the search for perfection is interesting, but not really relevant to getting the job done every day. And my job is to get better and not to lose and not to waste, and to get back at it with the right mindset. And getting paid to learn is what we mean by doing a C or a C+ work. And maybe I missed that. I didn't catch that. And this thing could have been better, but I didn't lose money, and I actually made money. And I'm getting paid to learn to get better, to seize more and more opportunity. In the same way that a good carpenter is not wasting wood, that they figure out how to use the raw material just so, minimizing the waste, and then using the leftover pieces for other projects. In fact, no wood is ever wasted. You don't get to say the wood is wasted. That's just as a reflection of your lack of imagination. The wood is what it is, and it's perfect for whatever it's going to be, and it's already perfect in itself. So we just haven't found out a way to use it yet. So when I see Jim Carroll working with the wood of volatility, and he's found ways to trade the sweet spots in that curve, but there's a few things in special conditions that he's still approaching with a craftsman's eye. I see him looking at these odd pieces, these odd things that seem to keep popping up. And what can I do with that reliable source of raw material that I'm not doing it with? Is there value that can be found and developed inside there? That's how a craftsman looks at all the things that he's been given to work with. None of that is wasted. It's all there waiting to find its place inside your repertoire. I really respected Luke's appreciation of other people's work from the research weekends, like some of the work that Sunal Darbar had done in the UK and Jeff Boccaccio had done, helped him get through some sticky spots. And I respect the fact that he was looking around and sharing ideas and collaborating with others instead of just saying, well, what do I do next? No, he got in there and was working hard. So hat tip to Sunal and Jeff for helping. By his 1000th trade, Luke had settled into working in batches of 100 because it made sense to him to look at that as a chapter in a book that he was continuing to write. And then he could not only examine, so could look at sets of 100 trades and see how maybe some of the longer seasons, the meta cycles, were working. This is a typical performance of that task. And so here he's got trades 1001 to 1100. So it was starting from the upper left. It's 100 trades. The best result was a 6R. The worst result was -1R. That's good. We don't want any losses greater than 1R. When that happens, if you can frame 100 trades and never take a loss greater than 1R, we actually have some evidence that suggests that you might be able to estimate risk and then manage to it without going overboard. And if you can do that, you've started managing risk. We then look at what kind of results do you get? Were you getting 2 or 3 to 1 in your planning? Did you ever experience any of those? And was it positive expectancy with a normal looking histogram that had fat right tails? That's what we look at when we look at that histogram to the right. The first thing is no losses greater than 1R. Second thing, it has a normalish distribution between -1 and +2 that is positive expectancy. And that is the reliable signals taken professionally that are paying you to learn. And then the possibility of larger than 2R trades periodically, because good things happen to bad people all the time. Just look around. So he's open to the possibility in this set of 100 of getting wins greater than 2R. We just treat those like 2R wins. Say, yeah, it wasn't you. You just happened to be there. And the better prepared you are, the luckier you are. But really, seriously, we've got rules that allow us to be exposed to the possibility of greater than 2R wins, which periodically pay off. So as we go through the rest of that table, he had 58 winning trades that averaged 1R wins. So aiming for 2 and settling for 1. Okay. He had 13% scratches. He had 29% losers. The average win was 1. The average loss was -0.55. And that's a 1.82 to 1 ratio. And the win rate, 58% to 29, that's 2 to 1. So that's like rolling a six-sided die and getting paid $1 every time you win and losing 55 cents when you lose. How often do you want to play that game every day? All day, as many times as you can? Yes, you would. That leads to a SQN of 3.7 and an expectancy of 0.37. And his summary of top level insights from that studying that trade set of 100 was that his largest losing streak produced a net of minus 3.5. And how many trades were in that losing streak? It was 10 losses in a row. And it only summed to minus 3.5, meaning that he was not even sticking around for a full execution hour, that the failure to follow through gave him information to cut the trade early. And it took 7 trades to recover the losses of the 10 trade losing streak. 7 trades later, he was had erased that minus 3.5. On the histogram, you can see the scatter plot in the northwest corner that shows the production schedule and the timing of the trades. The histogram in the southwest corner shows what I said, the 3 things we look for in our histograms. The rolling R average settles in to his expectancy of 0.37 pretty quick. And you can see the shape of his cumulative R equity curve. It's acceptable. Looks like workman effort to me. And so that's his standard practice for 100. And then that becomes standard work. And these are the things that we're looking for in his standard approach. Again, no losses greater than 1, a normalish looking histogram between -1 and +2. That will contain about 90% of the trades typically, and then the possibility of fat rate tails. When you express that over all 1,167 trades that he had taken up until last weekend, and this includes his first on the job and his first 100 trades on the job. There's 42% losses, better than 2-to-1 reward to risk. So this is like having a coin flip that pays 2-to-1 with the slightly increased win rate paying for all the commissions. So a 5-to-4 win rate that pays 2-to-1, that gives you an SQN of 11. If you normalize that, it gives you 3.21. So over the life cycle of this effort, he's got a system quality number of an N system quality number of 3.21. That's good enough to trade. But now notice when you look at his rolling R average, it just looks like a nice steady state. That thing actually increases where it matters, and the expectancy improves, and the equity curve improves. And his last set of 100, his win rate was 2-to-1 instead of 5-to-4. So this is evidence of refining on the margin with lots of data. And this is evidence of skill acquisition and improvement over time that is sustained through multiple types of market conditions. That is really important. And how much overnight risk did he take? 0. Oh, this is with 0 overnight risk. Jim Carroll says, how much risk overnight? And I say again, 0 overnight risk. That's a separate discussion for another day. But that's not bad. I've seen worse. I've done worse. That's what good hard work looks like, properly reported in a professional way. And I don't have to tell him these things. He figured these things out by doing the work. So he's on autopilot with a little bit of nudging now and then. He did 18 months of work. I gave him 2 minutes of advice for his next level of effort. So Luke Crawford, purple belt, self-directed trader. He's got all the skills. I want to show you, Ken Hum's work is amazing too. 18 months of effort, nightly chart posting. But I want to insert, I see we got about 11 or 15 minutes. Ken's work is amazing. What I want to show you is the work that Phil Wu did. He's just starting this journey. And over the last month, he's gone through our foundations boot camp, which has about 40 or 50 hours of training. A lot of that is the nightly podcasts where we're beating the crap out of Luke and Ken, including the bar by bar efforts, the training. I mean, you get to watch a samurai sword getting made where we stick him in the fire and beat him with a hammer and fold him in half and do it again. That's kind of what it feels. That's the same gentle approach we take to, to teaching. But Phil went through all of those videos and all of the lesson titles. Each one of these is about an hour to 2 hours worth of work. And he built a Cornell note sheet for each one of those lessons that identifies all of the key words and concepts over on the left-hand side and the timestamp at which those things are discussed. A summary note sheet in the middle that includes discussion of these topics in deeper form. On the right-hand side, insights for self, system, and market, where those concepts really resonated with him. At the bottom, a synthesis where he pulls it all together and makes sense of it for himself. And then on the right-hand side, under the actions, makes a set of notes to self for things to do that day before the next session. And so he's gone through all 47 of those lessons and done that for every lesson, to include in the bar by bar setups all of the market context that we had gone through in order to take that trade, to plan, prepare, execute, and assess, and the timestamps where decisions were being made. I can't even fathom doing that work. It blew up my head just to do the work, to be able to sit there and listen and then document it like this. Well, he's an electrical engineer and an introvert and a software programmer. He's done some amazing work here. He's done work on the self psychology lessons, like mapping the inside of our brain. He's done some work on the ecosystem and the large set of concepts that create the environment in which we work. Again, all with timestamps. He's mapped out our processes for daily preparation and then management of the intraday timeframes in sets of 30 minutes, and timestamped all of the discussions. So the work that he's done on the cleaning up, like the 2-hour battle drill. Let me find another one he's done. The use of statistics. So 47 pages of effort. That book has so much goodness in it as is that you could do worse than just reading it. And I've sent the link, or I've sent the file through chat to you guys. You can download it and chew on it as you wish and ask questions as you like. This is one we really like here on the psychological state management in the usual phases of a trade. This really became evident as we were going through the bar by bar work, that there are different personas that were typically showing up from our inner theater that we named. And we said, guys, like the chief of staff was the one who put together the plan and made sure all the pieces were fitting and that nobody was overlooked. The scout was the one that was out there looking for opportunities to trade that met our criteria. The worker was the guy that put together the frame that would simultaneously keep us within our boundaries and provide safety and carry some of the load with standard work. The fireman that we trust is the guy that was keeping the monkey from getting in the way but also helping us get from initial risk to no lose plus dinner for two. By personifying that as a fireman and living up to those qualities, we were able to perform that most important work as a fireman. And then as soon as he got us out of the fire and to no lose plus dinner for two, we could just hand it off to our general manager, who would just do a science project and make hamburgers and do what's told and meet the public and just operate routinely according to rules. And then every so often, when you have an outsized gain, we could activate the sniper, who would bring in a set of standard work for abnormal gains. What do you do when this thing goes beyond 2R? Well, you just simply activate the sniper, and now you have a new set of rules to engage that allows you to get the satisfying big wins when they happen. Because if you have a big win and you let it go, that'll hurt your feelings. That'll make you want to change your rules the next time. So we don't want that to happen. So this discussion of the different roles that we have identified as part of our inner theater connects us with Van's work on psychology of the trader's mind. So I want to give a hat tip to Phil Wu, who has gone through 50 hours of the foundations course and all of the weekend question and answer sessions, where folks that take the 10-week course on foundations, they take a certain number of lessons each week, think about it, talk about it in the chat room. Then if they still have questions, they send it to me in writing, and we record the answers to those during a live session, but we record that, and then that becomes part of the course. We've done that twice now for the two, that's 2.5 times that we've taught that course. And that has added another 30 to 40 hours of material of deeper explanations that were geared specifically to questions that students would ask. Those are far more important than me trying to imagine what your questions are. So that is part of the growing legacy of that course. And Phil and Griff Cooper, who's one of the super traders who they worked together to do this work, and Griff's notes are amazing as well. And what's really powerful is when you put both of their note sheets together, you get two to make one to look at the questions and answers, and it gives you insights into what they thought were powerful parts of the course. That's like drinking from the fire hose and rapid learning, and it's exciting to watch them get so well started at the start of their learning. So I want to acknowledge the work that they've done there. I was going to show you Ken Hum's work. I only have time, I think, for about two. There's about two things I want to show you, and then if you would think about your questions, I'm happy to talk about those. So this is from Ken Hum's briefing on what he learned about trading in life. He started with where he was. He talked about the journey up the mountain of learning these things. And he talked about a really important moment last Thanksgiving when he took 3 days off and decided to just commit and stop dabbling and stop treating this as a hobby, but as a serious endeavor. And in that 3-day period, when he brought home 29R over Thanksgiving and then did bar by bar trading, it turned out to be a profound turning point in his life about acquiring skills in a professional way. And then he brought he's an IT executive and a programmer and an engineer and a leader of people, an experienced businessman, but he started bringing all those things to bear on how he developed his systems. And that first artifact you see on the right from May 24th, 2020, that was his first primitive attempt to put a chart in the chat room for us to discuss. And he said that was one of the bravest things he's ever done, to be able to put himself out there and ask for feedback in public. And the fact that he kept coming back and doing that, and that he's still doing it to this day, tells me that he has the emotional resilience in the real world to be able to take whatever the market's given and build that into something positive and reinforcing. This little picture of the baby bear becoming the big bear, he probably spent 20 minutes talking through this process of remapping his energy from a little frivolous baby bear that was chasing fish. He went through a systematic process of plan, prepare, execute, and assess to learn how to do processes, to develop the right mindset, to strengthen the will to do the right thing, to apply the principles of training with good tools, until the point where he's this great big bear that knows where to go when the salmon are jumping, positions himself right there and lets the fish jump into his mouth. And if you want to see something amazing, just check into the chat room and look at this charts he's marking up, and look at the attention to detail he does on the weekends to prepare swing trades and day trades framed in a standard way that meet his criteria for the patterns he likes to trade. We go through that every Saturday and Sunday night on the record, recordings, and then that becomes part of, his apprentice work and paying back to the community of practice that's given him good feedback, is that you can get smart on his work. And at some point you'll just say, oh yeah, well, I want to learn how to do that too. And when the time's right, you'll just jump in and start swimming, and you'll be treated properly with care, but professionally, so that we can learn how to do this stuff together and survive in this marketplace. So I've made the recording of his presentation plus our community of practices question and answers and commentary available to you, so you can study that stuff. And I see we have I've successfully managed to leave about 3 minutes of time for questions. Yeah, Kelly, I sent the links to Jackie. If you send me an email, I'll send those to you as well. But if we go back to the, let me show you where you can find them also. Yeah, if you send me an email to longke@yahoo, I'll get you the links. You can find those links on my website at tortoisecapital.net or on Patreon as well. That's where we do the membership subscription and whatnot. I'm going to hang them on that tortoisecapital.net site at the top, rather than sending out 73 individual emails with your permission. So if you go to those websites or send me an email, I'll send you the link, whatever it takes. So you can watch those videos. I thought we had put them in the invitation to the site, but I'm open to your other questions. And I can stick around as long as you guys need, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So again, hat tip to Luke. I want to praise him with great praise in public for doing the work. Over to you guys for questions.
If you have any questions, feel free to add them to chat, or you can hover your mouse to the bottom of your Zoom screen, click on participants, and it's the blue hand next to yes and no to raise your hand.
Hey, Jackie, do you have some easy collection of everybody's email? Like if I send you the links, could you send out a blast email to everybody? Is that an easy way to do it?
Yeah,
okay,
we can include it in the recording email.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do it that way. Because I think if you check, I think I sent you one late last night that had the links, but I'll send them again just to make sure. So all those things will come to you guys. They're definitely worth watching and rewatching, in my view. The second and third time you listen to them, you'll hear things and see things that you didn't catch the first time, which, by the way, is one of the lessons that Phil Wu and Griff Cooper discovered when they were listening with care to the videos. They found that when they were making notes to share with other people, that it raised the level of their attention to detail and their focus, because they were acting out of a sense of service to others, and it sharpened their tool and it made their work even better. And if you guys should be able to see the, I put the briefing, the full briefings from Ken and Luke, and then Phil Wu's note sheets in the chat room for you to download. Yeah, Kelly asks, intentional practice, is there a place I can refer to for a refresher? Well, that you'll see that all over the place. You see it a lot in sports. I'm trying to think of one right off. A lot of the work of the Get Things Done and Atomic Habits. I think Atomic Habits is where I would steer you to, because you're going to get a combination of how to render things down to their most basic task level, and then in Atomic Habits, and then how to do that with intention. So if the thing you're trying to master is too large and you haven't broken it down into pieces, it really complicates how to do it right. And one of the things that Luke's work demonstrates is that when you reduce your span of control to one, make one bowl, carve one wooden bowl, nothing else, just carve a wooden bowl. You learn something about wood carving and sharp knives in your fingers that you cannot learn in any other way. And it's not harder than that. I mean, honestly, you can read as many words as you want. You got to carve some wood, right? And that's what I mean about the knowledge of the hands and knowledge of the feet, about learning how to endure those little learning lessons. There's not a secret sauce. That's the only secret there is. Carve one wooden bowl. Just carve a wooden bowl every day, rain or shine. Feel good, feel bad, doesn't matter. Carve a bowl every day. And after a while, you're a bowl carver, and then you're a carver, and then you're a carpenter, and then you're an artist. Have that as your intention. One good trade, one good plan. That's what I would say. Don't read a book, make a plan, and then get better. The way I say it with my kids, drive them nuts with advice. And we talked about this at the research weekend. Here's the magic formula. Okay. Now I'm going to reveal the secret. Right? The first thing is, it starts with two words. Okay, fine. Only you have to say it with the following tone. Okay, fine. And those of you who are parents recognize that tone of voice. That's the tone of voice that your children use when they are absolutely fed up with the same old advice you keep giving them. And they find, okay, fine. So you have to be in that state of mind that you've just decided to act. Okay, I've heard enough. Act. So, okay, fine is step 0. Step 1, make a list. Step 2, pick one. Step 3, go. That's it. And you want to learn from that. You want to assess and get better, but that's it. Okay, fine. Make a list, pick one, go. And then learn. That's your intention. Now, you can turn that into a book, but then you just have to cut out all the other stuff in the book until you get back to that point. That's the only thing I've ever learned. Ed says, to follow the game plan and various rules requires a great deal of energy. Yes and no. If you watch guys who are really good at their craft, they have an economy of motion and energy that is nourishing. Like if you watch Leo Messi play soccer, that dude's not tired. He could play 4 games in one day. He is invigorated by the effort, and he doesn't waste energy. So what I would say, as you're entering into this process, by cutting away non-value added steps, you're only spending energy on things that matter. And then if you look at yourself as a biological system, sleep, nutrition, meditation, physical fitness, trained breathing, all of those things lead to generating energy. Part of it is the mind state that you're in when you're working. If you're fighting yourself and fighting the work, that just takes more energy. So you're not going to be able to do as much. And in Ken Hum's video, you'll listen to him talk about a moment where he had gone through the bar by bar trading in public, spent about 30 minutes, made 12 decisions, made about 15 R, and was completely exhausted. And then I asked him, okay, now what are you going to do? And he says, well, I'm going to wait and see. And he remembers that as the turning point in his life, that as a trader, that all we had to do was take one more step. When you're tired, you take one more step. Every time. Make one more step. Just go. And you'll find the energy to just take one more step. And if it's a good step, because your intention is right and your training is good, then you will gain endurance. And that's part of the knowledge of the feet that I talked about, how to keep going back to the well. So part of Van's work will help you discover your sources of strength, your sources of energy. For some people, it's the purpose to which they are committed, and the divine brings them the energy that they need. Other people, I count myself as one of these people. I pay attention to sleep, fitness, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual fitness, monitoring my state, knowing when I'm in the right energy level to be able to trade. Hey, some of the best things you can do is learning when not to trade. So when I think of the four things, time, will, pattern, and money, three of those four things are objective. There's enough time left in the day or in the week or before the earnings report to be able to perform the trade you want to perform. So is there time? That's yes or no. Objectively measured. Is there a pattern without any shortcut? Yeah, it meets the patterns or it doesn't. So the patterns we have are codable and mechanical, if you want to trade them mechanically. So that's a yes or no. No shortcuts. Why? There's so many opportunities where you don't have to take shortcuts. Don't take shortcuts. And then you have risk capital available or not. So the only thing that's even up to interpretation is the will, which is my name for that mental, physical, emotional state where you are prepared to trade properly. And you either are in your zero state or you're not. And even then, that can move around a little bit. That's the first thing that goes and the last thing that arrives. So that becomes, the really good question, Ed, is the one you asked, is how do I monitor my emotional, physical bank account to ensure that I have the energy that it takes. This is like a combination of strength training and cardiovascular training. You got to build power and you've got to build the wind. You have to build endurance. It's both of those things. And it's no different than anything else. Repetition, periodicity, a good rest period, good debriefing, and then studying your process to make sure that your technique is not wasting energy, that you're not doing things that are frittering away the energy in non-value add. That's part of it too. So good question. Cam made a good point in there. You perform better after you teach a friend the fundamentals. Yeah, if you want to learn something, teach somebody. So when you are putting your trade frames in the chat room for others to see, you actually get motivated to do your best because you realize other people may be acting on your work. So that pushes you to do your best, and then that just becomes your normal mindset. And you get better by trying to serve others well. So you're doing well by serving others. It's a very selfish approach that I'm fond of. and I'm lazy. So if I can help others and get better and get both, that's good. There was a question on, let's see, Manoj asked, what's the best way to master trading psychology? Trade and study what you did and did I follow the plan? Just the plan, prepare, execute, and assess. And then a rigorous assessment of sustain, improve, and action. What did I do good that I should continue to do? What did I abstain from that I should continue to abstain from? What didn't I do that I should do? What did I do that I shouldn't do? So when you go through that systematic process on every trade and every day and at the end of the week, and then study the numbers, that's trading psychology. There's not a magic bullet for that. If I could take a pill for, no. If you could take a pill to do that, then everybody would, and there'd be no edge. The secret sauce is not secret, but it is rare. And that is the willingness to go to work every day and do what needs to be done professionally, rain or shine, day or night, happy or sad, does not matter. Do the work. That's how you master trading psychology. How do you master anything in life? Intentional, effortful action. To standard with accountability. That's the only way I've ever seen anybody get good. Let's see. I'll say this wrong. Adelaja said, in preparation, how long do these rare talents invest in carrying out back test of their strategy? And it is said that a trader should master a repeatable pattern. Well, first of all, I'm going to say they are not rare talents. They're just guys that do the work. A rare talent suggests that there's some kind of magical DNA or some unique combination. No, these guys, these are monkeys like me that just do the work every day. Now, that could actually be the rare talent. That's the secret sauce. They do the work. So I don't accept the premise that these are rare talents. Now, carrying out the back test of their strategy, they didn't back test it at all. They traded it forward, paper trading until they got the rules correct. And then they started trading one share live with skin in the game. The best simulator of the market is the market. The best simulator of money at risk is money at risk. The best model of a cat is another cat, preferably the same cat. So if you want to be serious about trading, trade with money, with skin in the game. I can't tell you the number of guys that have back tested for 3 years and thought they got it all perfect and the plan is just right. And then as soon as they put their first trade on, all that goes out the window because you haven't dealt with the monkey in your mind and the monkey on your back who has a better idea. Because your rational mind is only the first one of the things that you got to learn to contend with. And that's the easiest thing. I'll give you the symbols and the setups. That's freely available. So master the repeatable pattern. That's what Luke's exercise for 18 months shows you what happens when you do that. And I would say, Jim Carroll points this one out. Well, let me finish Adelaja's. How long does it take? It takes 1,000 trades. Luke was doing them 5 a day for 200 days. Sometimes there were less than 5, so it took him 18 months. Ken Hum, 14 months, 1,000 trades. Kim Anderson, the trading goddess, super trader, teacher at VTI, 1,000 trades. Her world changed when she decided to implement ruthless risk management. She says, what can I do to stop losing money? And I said, well, Kim, stop losing money. She said, all right. She came back 6 months later after 1,000 trades. Her equity curve changed shape completely because she no longer accepted waste. She was ruthless about cutting losing trades and let the winning trades run. That's all. How long does it take you to master that pattern? I don't know. Your number may vary. Jim Carroll points out a book called Peak Mind by Amisha Yah, based on her research around attention. And I agree with that. It's a good book. And it talks about there's a very thin energy field of attention that is distracted by everything else in the world. And the rest of the world is very interesting, very easy to get distracted. One of the 5 hindrances that the Buddhists talk about. So that's what the fireman does for us, is that we love it when the monkey points out things to be concerned with, and then we frame the trade and we take the trade, and the fireman keeps the monkey out until he moves us to no lose plus dinner for 2. If you do that 1,000 times, the monkey stops bothering you when you're doing work. He's always there chattering away, but you learn to deal with that as a side note. And when he's chattering, that's actually a good thing. But you don't let your children drive the car from the back seat, and you don't make them sit absolutely silent. That would be unnatural. You wonder what they're up to. So you learn to listen to that background noise in a comfortable way. That's accommodating and accepting and loving that inner monkey without trying to eliminate him or control him. What is my experience with self-taught traders? They normally fail. That's why 90 to 95% of traders fail within 5 years. That's just the stats. That's just the math going back 50 years. So it is possible to be a self-taught trader. It's the hardest way known to man. That's like being a self-taught guitar. Why, when you hear about a guy that's a self-taught guitarist like Tommy Emmanuel from Australia, he never learned to read music, never took a lesson, except he played by listening to Chet Atkins and Merle Travis and all those guys. They were his teachers. So self-taught, if I would say, take a look at the way that you learn. How are you teaching? What is your mechanism? For 40 years, I've been teaching graduate school for master's and doctoral students across a variety of disciplines. So I know a few things about how to teach and what works in the classroom based on evidence. I would say I've shown you evidence today of what it takes to learn this particular style of trading. Can a self-trader like you evolve to standards of the legendary? Well, first of all, he's not legendary. He's Van Tharp. He's got evidence-based insights proven over time. That's pretty good. Legendary, what's that? What's that thing do except set me up for failure? Legendary. Do the work, you know? So I showed you evidence that Luke did it in 18 months, father of 5 in Australia, trading at night while running a successful accounting business and getting his brains beat out every night in the chat room. That's his rare talent. He does the work. Kim Anderson, same thing. Ken Hum, same thing. Me, same thing. That's what I would say to that. All right, that feels like a natural break point there, Jackie. Is that what you're sensing with your spider sense?
Yes, so I turned my camera on. Thank you all for attending Van Tharp Institute's Free Monday webinar, and a special thank you to Ken for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Bye-bye.